She is garnished with the flowers of sweet-scented herbs and bedecked in the brocaded vestments of gardens. Damascus was honored when God Most High gave asylum there to the Messiah and his mother, may God bless them both, on a hill having meadows and springs with deep shade and delicious water. Its rivulets twist like serpents through every way, and the perfumed zephyrs of its flower gardens breathe life into the soul. To those who contemplate her, she calls to them, saying, "Come to the halting place of beauty, and take the midday repose." The ground is choked with the superfluity of water, as if yearning for a drought, and the hard stones of the road almost crying out to you, "Urge on with your foot. Here is a cool, cleansing place and a drink." Gardens encircle it like the halo around a moon, and contain it as if it were the calyx of a flower. To the east, its greenery stretches as far as the eye can see, and wherever you look on its four sides, its ripe fruits hold the gaze. By Allah, they spoke truth, whoever said, "If paradise is on the earth, then Damascus, without a doubt, is in it. If it is in the sky, then it vies with it and shares its glory." After the new moon, we lodged at Dar al-Hadith, west of the venerated cathedral mosque. For beauty, perfection of construction, marvelous and sumptuous embellishment and decoration, it is one of the most celebrated mosques of the world. Its general fame in this regard renders valueless a deep description. One of the stranger things concerning it is that the spider never spins its webs therein, nor do swallows ever enter it or alight thereon. The Umayyad Caliph Al-Walid ibn Abdul Malik, may God's mercy rest upon his soul, undertook the construction of this mosque over 400 years ago. He sent to the king of the Byzantines, Justinian II, asking him to send 12,000 craftsmen and artisans from his country. And after an exchange of letters recorded in the history books, Justinian obliged. Walid commenced the construction, and the most exhaustive attention was given to it. All its walls were inlaid with gold mosaics called fusayfisat, and mingled with it were all kinds of remarkable colors in the pattern of plants, throwing out branches, and arranged amongst the gold stones with the most wonderful, exquisite work that is impossible to describe, and that dazzles the eyes with its brightness and luster. The amount spent on it, according to Ibn al-Mu'alli, in a chapter that he wrote in description of its building, was 400 coffers, each coffer containing 28,000 dinars, giving a total of 11,200,000 dinars. The site itself used to be a church, and it was Walid who took half of that church, which originally remained in the hands of the Christians after the conquest, and embraced it in the mosque. For it had been in two parts, the eastern belonging to the Muslims and western to the Christians. This was because Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, may God hold him in his favor, entered the town from the west and arrived at the center of the church after he had already made peace with the Christians. However, Khalid ibn al-Walid had entered by assault from the east side of the town and had arrived to take the eastern half of the church, and so he took possession of this half and made it a mosque, while the half that came under the treaty of capitulation remained the church in the hands of Christians until Caliph Walid asked them for it in return for compensation. They refused, whereupon he seized from them by force and began the deconstruction. The Christians had sought the protection of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, may God hold him in his favor, at the time of his caliphate, and had brought forward the pact which they had received from the companions of the Prophet over 400 years ago, showing the church to remain to them. Walid then proposed a compensation of land and a great sum, which satisfied them and which they accepted. We read in the book Fada'il Dimishq, The Merits of Damascus, that Sufyan al-Thawri declared that one prayer in this mosque is worth 30,000 elsewhere, and in the traditions of the Prophet, may God bless him, it is said that great and glorious God will continue to be worshipped in this mosque for 40 years after the sun rises from the west. The most impressive thing in this blessed mosque is the lead dome in the center, beside the mihrab. It rises up into the air with a vast circumference, and it is supported by a beam which is the nave and which extends from the mihrab to the court. Men call this part of the mosque an-Nisr, the eagle, for this resemblance to it. From whatever direction you look upon Damascus, you will see the dome towering in the air over all others as though it were suspended in space. Along the south wall of the mosque is the great coppersmith's row. There is no more beautiful looking row of shops than this, nor bigger both in length and breadth. Behind it and close by is the cavalry barracks of Muawiyah, which today is tenanted and in which the cloth pullers have a place. Here the population congregate, for it is their place of care dispelling and recreation. And here, every evening, you'll see them coming and going from east to west, from Bab Jairun to Bab al Barid. Others you will see talking to their friends, and some reading. In this manner, they will go on, coming and going, until the end of the last evening prayers, and then they depart. Some do this in the morning, but the largest assembly is always in the evening, and he who surveys it will conceive it to be the night of the 27th of Ramadan, for what he will observe of the multitude of people congregating together. They do not cease from doing this every day, the coming and the going. The idle ones among men call them the plowman. On the north side is a massive gateway giving on to a large mosque with a large round marble basin. This place is called Al Kalasa, the lime kiln, and there today prays our companion Abu Ja'far al Fanaki of Cordova. A thing of note is that facing this mosque, on the west side of the court, is a beautiful building from which hangs a curtain. Most men say that this is the place where dwelt Aisha, may God hold her in his favor, and that there she related her traditions. God only knows the truth of these legends. I but mention this because of its notoriety in the mosque. In front of that building were steps whereby descent is made to the vestibule, which is like a vast ditch ending in a door of immense height, whose summit the gaze falls short of. Flanking the door are palm trees, along both sides are columns that sustain circular galleries, ranged with perfumers and other shops, and still above these are other long galleries with rooms and apartments for hire. They are covered by a flat roof, where the tenants of these rooms and apartments pass the night. In the center is a large round marble basin, over which is an open top dome sustained by marble columns, and with a deep lead band around its upper part. It is exposed to the elements, for no upper vault bends over it. In the center of the marble basin is a brass sprout, which throws out water like silver wands. It was a delightful sight to see than to describe. In the vestibule at the west door are the greengrocers and perfumers' shops, and it has a row of fruit shops as well. At its upper end is a massive door to which one climbs by a flight of steps. It has columns soaring in the sky, and at the foot of these steps are two round fountains, each housing 5 sprouts of water into a long marble trough. In the street to the north are the zawiyas, where teachers instruct children. To the right of him who leaves the street is a convent built for the Sufis, with a cistern in the middle. Walking along, still to the right, is a Shafi'i college, which has in its center more cisterns of the style described. For orphan boys, there is in the town a large school with a generous endowment from which the teachers draw enough to sustain themselves, and disbursements are made from it to support and clothe the children. This is also one of the common virtues of these lands. The instruction of boys in the Quran consists only of making them commit to memory. Writing, they learn through the medium of poetry and other sciences. In this way, the Quran teacher and writing master are separate persons, which produces a good hand for the instructor in that subject is occupied with none other. And while they put all their efforts into teaching it, the pupil does the same in learning it. Damascus is full of fountains, and it is rare for a street or market to be without one. The conveniences in this town are more than can be described. May God preserve it. For every mosque, school, hospital, or convent, the Sultan will assign to it an endowment that will support it and those that dwell therein, as well as its officials. These are also among the generous deeds that are enduring. Amongst the princesses who possess the means, some order the buildings of an asylum for the poor and needy, an orphanage, or a school, spending on them large sums and assigning them endowments from their properties. In this blessed path, they reveal a readiness to do good. Any needy stranger, so long as they come for righteous purposes, will be cared for without giving cause to blush. Other strangers who have a trade or craft are also found diverse means of livelihood. Should one of these beneficiaries wish to have audience with the Sultan, he will receive them and treat them liberally, granting them a salary paid according to their ability and office. These virtues are just part of the natural character of the people of Sham, both old and new. In the book on the merits of Damascus, it was retold that there exists a sect called Al-Nubuwiyya, who revere the Futuwah and all virile manners. Whoever is admitted to their sect because of a virtue which they recognize in him, they invest with the trousers of manliness, I suppose, and admit him to their number. They do not find it fitting that any of them should cry for help when in distress. In this manner of upholding manly qualities, I find they follow a strange practice. The city has 6 gates. Bab Sharqi is to the east. Next to it is Bab Tuma, St. Thomas's Gate. Then comes Bab al Salama, the Gate of Safety. Then Bab al Firdaus, the Gate of Paradise, which is to the north. Then Bab al Faraj, the Gate of Consolation. And then finally Bab al Nasr, the Gate of Victory. The great mosque lies towards the northern side of the city, and it is surrounded by the suburbs, save on the east side. They are large, but the city itself is not excessively big, and inclines to be long instead. Its streets are narrow and dark, and its houses are made of mud and reeds, arranged in 3 stories, one over the other. Damascus contains as many people as 3 cities, for it may be the most populous in the world. We passed by a church held in great consideration by the Byzantines. It is called Mary's Church, and after the temple in Jerusalem, they have nothing more esteemed than this. It is an elegant structure with remarkable pictures that amaze the mind and hold the gaze, and its spectacle is wonderful indeed. It is under the ownership of the Byzantine inhabitants, and it is forbidden to molest them or harm them within it. There are about 20 colleges in the city and three hospitals, two old and one new. The new one is finer and bigger and receives a daily allowance from the Sultan of about 15 dinars. Its staff maintains a register that records the names of the sick and the items they require of medicine, food, and other things. Early each morning, the physicians come to the hospitals to visit the sick and order preparation of the proper medicines and food as suits each person. The other hospitals are managed the same way, but more people use the new. There is also a system for the treatment of confined lunatics who take refuge in God from this trial and sore affliction. As for the covenants they call khawanat, there are many and are used by the Christian monks and the Sufis. The Sufis are the kings of these parts, for God has sufficed them of the goods and favors of the world and freed them from thoughts of winning their livelihood that they might apply themselves to his worship. They follow a noble path, and their social conduct is admirable. The style of their ritual in worship is remarkable, and excellent is their custom of assembling to listen to impassioned dance music. In a word, all their affairs are wonderful, and they hope for a future life full of bliss. If, in all these lands, there was nothing but the readiness of its people to show bounty to strangers and generosity to the poor, even from the inhabitants of the countryside, it would be enough for this city. For you will find admirable their eagerness to show kindness to guests, which is enough to bring them honor. It sometimes comes to pass that one of them offers his piece of bread to a man, upon whom refusing he will cry and say, "Had God seen in me any good, this man would have eaten my food, regardless of his need." In this they reveal a most noble heart. In the suburbs, there are about 100 baths, and it has 40 ablution houses, in all of which flows water. For the stranger, there is no better city in all of Sham than this, for its convenience are manifold. What we have mentioned of them is enough. As for the markets, they are the finest I have seen, and the best arranged, and the most handsomely constructed. Especially is this so with the Qaisariyas, which are tall and furnished with iron gates like those of a castle. The city's biggest market is called As-Suq al-Kabir, the Great Market, which extends from Bab al-Faraj to Bab Sharqi along a wide street. One of the grandest and most remarkable sights in the world is achieved by climbing to the top of the dome of the Grand Mosque, a sight admitted to be beyond description even in the most eloquent of tongues. We climbed down, consumed with wonder at this stupendous spectacle, so miraculously constructed and beyond description's reach. Men here say that on the face of the world there is no more wonderful structure to look upon, save perhaps what has been reported of the cathedrals of Palestine. The people of these parts address each other as Mawlay, my lord, and Sayyidi, sir, and use the expressions your servant and your excellency when one meets another. Instead of giving the ordinary greetings, they say respectfully, "Here is your slave," referring to themselves, or "Here is your servant at your service." They make presents of honorifics to each other. A fabulous affair. Their style of salutation is either a deep bow or a prostration, and you will see their neck in play, lifting and lowering, stretching and contracting. Sometimes they will go on like this for a long time, one going down as the other rises, their turbans tumbling between them. They do not distinguish between governor or governed. Glory be to God who created men of all kinds. A singular habit in all these lands is their way of walking, great and small, with their hands behind their backs, one holding the other. They make their deep inclinations of greeting in this fashion, which has an air of humility and modesty, as well as giving liveliness to their limbs and relief from fatigue. In the etiquette of shaking hands, they employ them after prayers, more specifically in the morning and afternoon. When the Imam salutes and has ended the prayer, the people go to him and shake his hand. and then advance on each other, shaking hands with those to the right and left of them. They also employ this during every new moon of the new month. This is a beneficial practice, as it reaffirms affection. Any stranger in the lands of Sham whom God has rendered fit for solitude may, if he wishes, attach himself to a farm and live there the most pleasant of lives with the most contented mind. Bread in plenty is given to the poor and needy, and whoever wishes to engage himself in the duties of an imam may do so. When he is wearied of the place, he may remove himself to another farm, or climb Mount Lebanon or Mount Judi, and there find the saintly hermits who seek nothing but to please God, and to remain with them so long as he wishes, and then go where he wills. The Christians around Mount Lebanon, when they see any Muslim hermits, bring them food and treat them kindly, saying these men are dedicated to God, and that they should therefore share with them. This mountain is one of the most fertile in the world, having all kinds of fruits, running waters, and ample shade. And if the Christians treat the supposed opponents of their religion in this manner, what think you of the treatment they give other Christians, or Muslims give each other? This has been an account of the city of Damascus. May God Most High protect it. She is the paradise of the Orient, the place where dawned her gracious and radiant beauty, the seal of the lands of Islam, where we have sought hospitality, and the bride of the cities that I have observed. The new moon rose on the night of Sunday, the 9th of September, according to the foreigners. While we're in Damascus on the point of departure, I long for home. But for the few weeks of stay in Damascus, I felt content. I felt welcomed by her warm embrace. The state of this country is truly more astonishing than our story can fully convey.